What if one single mistake on a football pitch could cost you your life? One touch, one deflection, one own goal. A moment that lasted less than a second, but echoed for the rest of history. 6 days later, Andrés Escobar was dead. The gentleman of football, Andrés Escobar, was not just a footballer. In Colombia, he was known as El Caballero del Fútbol, the gentleman of football. He was calm when others were aggressive, soft-spoken when others shouted, disciplined in a game often ruled by emotion. On the pitch, Escobar played with intelligence rather than force. He relied on perfect positioning, clean timing, and anticipation instead of reckless tackles. Referees trusted him. Opponents respected him. Teammates looked to him as a quiet leader at the back. Off the pitch, he was just as composed. Educated, polite, and deeply principled, Escobar carried himself with dignity. He avoided controversy, stayed away from excess, and believed footballers had a responsibility beyond winning matches. In a country torn apart by violence, corruption, and fear, Andrés Escobar represented something rare: hope. At a time when Colombia's global image was defined by drug cartels, assassinations, and bloodshed, Escobar symbolized a different future. He believed football could unite a fractured nation. He believed sport could offer pride without fear. And above all, he believed football was just a game, a belief that would ultimately cost him everything. World Cup 1994 pressure builds. By the early 1990s, Colombian football was rising faster than ever before. This was a golden generation. Talented, confident, fearless. Players like Carlos Valderrama, Freddy Rincon, and Faustino Asprilla gave Colombia flair, creativity, and belief. But nothing announced Colombia's arrival on the world stage more than one unforgettable night in 1993. Colombia defeated Argentina 5-0 in Buenos Aires. It was historic, unthinkable. One of the most famous results in football history. Pundits were stunned. Fans dared to dream. For the first time, Colombia wasn't just qualifying for a World Cup, they were expected to win it. Some experts even tipped Colombia as potential champions of the 1994 World Cup in the United States. But behind the excitement, there was a darker reality. Millions of dollars were being wagered on matches. Illegal betting networks flourished. Criminal organizations, flush with drug money, had infiltrated football. In Colombia at that time, football and crime existed dangerously close together. Victories meant profits, defeats meant losses. And losses were not always forgiven. The own goal, June 22, 1994. Colombia versus the United States. It was a must-win game. There was no margin for error. Early in the match, the United States attacked down the wing. A fast, low cross was driven into the Colombian penalty area, the kind defenders deal with every game. Andrés Escobar reacted instantly. He stretched his leg to intercept the ball, reading the danger before anyone else. But timing is everything in football. He was a fraction of a second too late. The ball struck his leg, changed direction, and rolled slowly into the Colombian net. Silence followed. For a brief moment, it felt unreal, like time had stopped. Then the stadium erupted, but not for Colombia. Escobar stood frozen, staring at the goal he never meant to score. Colombia eventually lost the match 2-1. Their World Cup campaign was effectively over. For most footballers, an own goal means criticism, headlines, and regret. For Andrés Escobar, it meant something far more dangerous. Because in Colombia in 1994, mistakes were not always forgiven. Return to Colombia. After the World Cup, the Colombian team returned home under a cloud of disappointment and silence. Many players went into hiding. Some left the country. Others avoided public places, afraid of the anger waiting for them. But Andrés Escobar didn't hide. He returned to Medellín openly, calm, composed, unafraid. Friends urged him to be careful. Some warned him to leave Colombia for a while, but Escobar refused to run. He even wrote a public newspaper column, taking responsibility and urging perspective. Life does not end here. It was a message of humility and maturity, a reminder that football was not worth hatred, threats, or violence. But Colombia was not listening. The country was tense. Anger simmered everywhere. Money had been lost. Pride had been shattered. In a society already poisoned by violence, blame needed a face. And Andrés Escobar had become that face. The night of the shooting. On the night of July 2nd, 1994, Andrés Escobar went out with friends to a nightclub in Medellín. It was meant to be a normal night, a brief escape from pressure and pain. But in the parking lot, an argument broke out. Witnesses later said Escobar's own goal was mentioned repeatedly. Insults were exchanged. Taunts followed him into the darkness. Escobar tried to remain calm, just as he always had. Then suddenly gunshots. 6 bullets were fired. According to reports, after each shot, the gunman allegedly shouted, "Goal!" mocking the mistake that had ended a nation's dream. Escobar collapsed onto the pavement. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was too severe. In the early hours of July 2nd, Andrés Escobar was pronounced dead. He was 27 years old. What really happened? The killing sent shockwaves through Colombia and the football world. An investigation followed quickly. A man named Humberto Muñoz Castro was arrested, tried, and later sentenced. Officially, the case was closed, but questions never disappeared. Some reports linked the killing to gambling losses connected to powerful criminal figures. Others described it as an act of drunken rage, a tragic argument that escalated in a country where guns were everywhere. Was Escobar deliberately targeted? Or was he simply in the wrong place at the wrong time in a violent society? In Colombia, during the 1990, the line between crime, money, and everyday life was dangerously thin. What was clear is this: Andrés Escobar paid the ultimate price for a mistake that should have meant nothing more than defeat. Legacy. The death of Andrés Escobar shocked the world. Tens of thousands attended his funeral. Streets fell silent. Men cried openly. A nation mourned not just a footballer, but what he represented. He became a symbol, not of failure, but of innocence lost. His story forced football to confront an uncomfortable truth. What happens when sport becomes entangled with money, power, and violence? In Colombia, his death marked the end of an era and served as a warning to the future. Today, Andrés Escobar is remembered not for an own goal, but for his dignity, his courage, and his humanity, and for reminding the world that football should never cost a life. This was the story of Andrés Escobar, a reminder that football is more than a game, and that sometimes the most tragic stories begin with a single moment. If you want more dark stories from the hidden side of football, subscribe to Football's Darkest Secrets, because some stories were never meant to be forgotten.